Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be discussing the changes that are coming to Prot Warriors in patch 7.1.5. I went ahead and tried out the PTR and I saw a lot of these changes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the basic changes and the results to all of my math I did in the beginning of the video. If you want to see all of the work and all of the heavy math in the later portions of the video, you guys can stick around to that. So let's just get right into it. Now the new warrior changes have abilities changed, talent points changed, just a lot of our core tanking principles have been changed. So the new abilities, Revenge has been changed. It now costs rage to be able to cast. Thunderclap is now going to give a little bit of rage, 3 to be exact, and it can also reset shield slam. And one other mechanic change is that dodges and parries now make Revenge cost no rage on the next cast. They don't reset the cooldown, they just make it free to cast. Now in terms of talents, we're no longer going to have Ultimatum and Vengeance Weaving. This is going to be replaced with the Best Served Cold talent point and the new Vengeance talent point, which the new Vengeance talent point acts very similar. Focused rage is gone, it's out of the window, but since Revenge now costs 30 rage, that's what's going to be replacing it. So a 30 cost Revenge is going to be replacing focused rage. Now, one of the new very interesting talents that they added was the Devastator talent. Now what this does is it gives you a little bit more rage per auto attack, and it also has a chance of resetting your shield slam. Now this is in the same tier as Indomitable. However, this really is only going to help people who are losing out on a lot of haste, who have really low haste builds, but Indomitable is still a better talent point. If we look at the extra rage that's given by Devastator, it doesn't offset the 25% increase to our ignore pains with Indomitable, not even counting the 25% increase in our HP pool. The other thing I went ahead and analyzed is Vengeance Weaving worth it now with the new Revenge mechanic? And if we look at the rage counters and we look at exactly how much everything is going to cost, basically if you optimize every single ignore pain, that means if you cast it from 35 rage to 39, that is after the reduction, then you're going to be in the clear. You're basically going to be gaining or breaking even on your rage generation. Again, if you do cast ignore pains between 35 to 39 rage after the reduction from using a Revenge, you are going to be doing better than not having that talent point. Now something else to note is that shield block has now gone from 10 rage to 15. So overall we got a very small nerf in how we generate rage by getting rid of Revenge giving 5 and giving us Thunderclap that generates 3, and we're going to be needing more rage from going from a shield block that costs 10 to going to a shield block that costs 15. So all in all, we did get nerfed this patch, but hopefully it proves to not be that devastating. So this brings us to what our rotation is going to be from now on. So before, our rotation was Shield Slam, Devastate until you get a proc. If you do not get a proc and Shield Slam is under 2 seconds, then you use Revenge. We're basically going to be using the very same rotation, and this is going to be cast Shield Slam, use Devastate until you get a proc. If you do not get a proc under 2 seconds, you use Thunderclap instead of Revenge because you're going to be generating a little bit of rage. One thing to note is that this is the simplified rotation. This is without Vengeance Weaving. Now overall what this means to us is that since we have higher rage consumption, if we do get a little bit of bad luck with our procs, we basically don't get any shield slam procs with our Devastate, we're going to be very rage starved. So hopefully RNG is on our side when we're doing this new rotation, just because we don't want to feel this nerf too bad. So what does this mean in terms of our stats? So in terms of our stats, haste is still king. This allows us to get a lot more Devastates and shield slams in a short amount of time to build up rage for our shield block and our ignore pain. Now with these changes we get to the question of, is crit good with the new Revenge? Just because it'll help us with our parry and it'll help us get free revenges? Well, basically crit is not as bad as it was before. However, it's still worse than mastery and versatility. However, one thing to note is if you're not using the new Vengeance, crit is going to be useless for you. You're going to be using the simplified rotation of Shield Slam, Devastate, and Thunderclap. Crit is no longer a stat that's completely useless. However, if you're not running Vengeance, then that stat is basically not going to play a big role in how you tank. So let's go over a little bit more of the in-depth math for this new build. Let's go ahead and compare Devastator versus Indomitable. I went ahead and looked at Warcraft logs, and I looked at the average fight duration of an Ursoc fight. Now the average duration that I found for an Ursoc fight was about 4.5 minutes. However, since our swing speed is 2.6 seconds, I went ahead and multiplied that by 100 to get nice round numbers. numbers, so that's 260 seconds, or 4 1/3 minute, 4.3. Now, since we do have 100 more individual swings at 2.6 seconds, we're going to be generating 500 extra rage with the Devastator talent than with the Indomitable talent. Again, looking at the Warcraft logs, I found that an average warrior cast 57 Ignore Pains throughout an Ursoc fight. For the sake of simplicity, let's just imagine each Ignore Pain absorbs 1000 hit points. With the Devastator talent, we have 57 casts, but we have that extra 500 rage. That 500 rage means we're going to do 8.3 more full casts of Ignore Pain, so that's 57 casts times 1000 plus the 8 extra casts times 1000, which brings us to a total of 65,000 absorption done over the course of this fight. Now let's look at this without the Devastator talent. We have 57 casts of Ignore Pain times the 1000 absorption plus a 25% bonus. This is going to equal a total of 71,250 absorption done. We can clearly see that the winner for this is Indomitable as opposed to Devastate. Now, one thing that we aren't counting here is the extra procs of Shield Slam, and we're also not counting the extra Indomitable talent of 25% more health. However, we can clearly see that Indomitable has a very, very large lead on the Devastator talent. Also, Devastator talent is going to be a lot more based on RNG with that Shield Slam proc than Abominable, just because Abominable is going to provide a much smoother tanking experience, just because it gives very nice big flat values every single time a condition is met. Now here is the big question, which is Vengeance Weaving and what it's going to do to us. So let's look at Revenge. Revenge costs 30 rage. However, with the Vengeance talent and the 35% reduction, Revenge is now going to cost 19.5 rage. However, for the rest of the math during all of this, I do have to round up at every step. Since you can't use 19.5 rage, you're going to use 20 rage. So an Ignore Pain cost with a 35% reduction, Ignore Pain normally goes from 20 to 60 rage. With the reduction is going to be from 13 to 39 rage. Now what we need to see is Revenge worth casting? Now again, Revenge costs 20 rage, so we basically need to offset 20 rage. Now at the lower end of the spectrum, if you cast an Ignore Pain with 20 rage or 13 after the reduction, you're only going to be saving 7 rage. That results in you losing 13 rage. Now if we look at the higher end of the spectrum, 60 rage, you are going to be casting Ignore Pains for 39 rage. That means that you are saving 21 rage. With the cast of Revenge being 20, you're going to be coming up with 1 extra rage point. Now, one more thing that we do need to include is Revenge being free when you dodge and parry. So let's assume you are perfectly itemized and you don't have any crit gear. Now what this means is that you're basically going to be getting Revenge for free 13% of the time. So let's take a look at exactly how much we're going to be reducing everything with this Revenge talent point. Now since we are getting Revenge for free 13% of the time, that means that we go from a 21 rage average to a 19 rage average. This is of course rounding up. So now we need to see exactly how much rage per ignore cast we get to offset that 19 rage cost. If we cast what would be normally a 54 rage Ignore Pain or 35 rage after the reduction, we do see a reduced cost of 19 rage. This is our sweet spot. So overall, to sum up all of this math, if you are Vengeance Weaving and you have base parry and base dodge adding up to 13%, then you will most definitely come out on top in rage only if you cast Ignore Pains at 35 rage and up. If you ever spend less than 35 rage on an Ignore Pain with the Vengeance talent, then you are going to be losing rage, and that talent point is going to be hurting you and rage starving you more than it is helping. Of course, these are all averages. You might have a little bit more crit leading to a little bit more parry, but if you follow along, you should be able to calculate exactly what that rage cutoff is for you. However, if you're trying to optimize, which most Vengeance players are, I would highly suggest only casting Ignore Pain at 35 and above rage. That really does it for this analysis and this very in-depth look into what Prot Warriors are going to be turning into next patch. I hope you all enjoyed this. I am trying to show all my steps so that you guys can see exactly how I come up with all these conclusions. Let me know if you guys are excited for this next patch and these changes to Prot Warriors. I'm a little hesitant because it most definitely is a nerf, But hopefully this doesn't put us in a bad spot, and hopefully we're still up there on the tanking list. So as always, good luck tanking out there.